Good morning, everyone, and welcome into this day with Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I would like to take a moment at this point to please ask everyone to silence their cell phones. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, whomever you love, and whatever your faith tradition, you're welcome here. My name is Gary Forbes, and I'm a member here at QUUF. I'd like to begin this service by acknowledging that the water, land, and shorelines here in Port Townsend are the traditional territory of the S'Klallam and Chimicum peoples. We honor and acknowledge our Indigenous members and neighbors and vow to help restore and sustain their homelands. As we call in our time together, let us settle our minds and calm our hearts with the ringing of the chime. It's good to be together. I'd like to welcome members of QUUF's A Joyful Noise now as they present today's prelude, Greensleeves.
Thank you, Joyful Noise. Please join me now in our chalice lighting words, which were written by D.C. Fortune. We light this chalice as a symbol of our free faith. We light this chalice to remember the miracle of the oil that burned for 8 days. We light this chalice to mark the nights of midwinter. We light this chalice as we wait for the sun to return. As we settle into the colder days and longer nights and look forward to the beginning of the return of the light this month, we've come to the time at our fellowship when we light a new candle each Sunday until Christmas Eve. The flame of each new candle reminds us that something is happening now, but something more is yet to come. The light of these candles grows brighter and brighter each Sunday, guiding us toward deeper faith, increased hope, shared joy, and more love. In prior weeks, we lit the candles of faith, love, and joy. This morning, we will light our fourth candle, the candle of hope. I now invite Violet and Molly up to light the candle of hope.
We light this fourth candle for hope, for strength and courage, dreams and visions, for caterpillars and seeds, for new days and new ways, for all things that help us choose to keep going and doing what we know to be right and true. We light this candle for hope.
Many thanks to our youth. We were originally going to hear from Nan, Toby, Tyrrell about Hanukkah for this part of worship. Nan gave permission for us to share that she has COVID-19, unfortunately, and cannot be with us today. Nancy Sendler graciously agreed to share with us instead. The Jewish holiday of Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration marked by the lighting of a menorah, special foods made with oil, gifts, and games. It's also known as the Festival of Lights. Hanukkah commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 164 BCE. Jerusalem had come under the control of Greek-Syrian oppressors. One ruler outlawed the Jewish religion and forced Jews to worship Greek gods. In 167 BCE, soldiers killed Jews in Jerusalem, and they desecrated the Second Temple. At that time, the temple in Jerusalem was the holiest place in the world for Jews. It was central to their identity as well as their religious practices. The soldiers destroyed the temple, building an altar to Zeus within it. A rebellion of Jews led by Judah Maccabee eventually drove the invaders out of Jerusalem. Judah and his followers cleansed the Second Temple, making it sacred space again. They rebuilt the altar and lit its menorah, a candelabra that was supposed to stay burning every night. According to the Talmud, there was only enough consecrated oil left in the temple to keep the menorah lit for a single day. And yet, through a miracle, the menorah kept burning for 8 nights.
Asher Kiddushanu, B'mitzvotah V'tzivanu, L'hadlik Ner Shel Hanukkah.
Hello. That translates to, Blessed is the Lord our God, ruler of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season. Thank you, Nan, for your blessing and beautiful words. She said to me, this is why I believe in Hanukkah. It is because it connects me to the roots of Judaism and my faith. It brings families together to recall our history. Plus, I love the greasy, fattening, wonderful, yummy, but potato latkes, the games, the songs. I wish you a speedy recovery. Inspired by my fellow students in my recent Merwin Alps class, I wrote the following poem and am extremely honored and grateful to have this opportunity to share it with you all today. Ars Poetica. The sun rises and the sun sets on the fiddler on the roof. What will happen? What will happen when we have written as many words as there are candles to light the sky? What will happen when we have spoken as many poems as can be written with all the stars in our mind? What will happen when we have sung as many songs as we can weave with all the words that brighten the air we breathe? What will happen when we have danced together across all the floors, moved with grace through all the doors, reaching you through me, earth bears sky, oh, eternity. Thank you. Now please, stand if you are willing and able to sing the hymn number 221, Light One Candle.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured, with the right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice this land of freedom demand. And light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those died without suffering, the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger won't tear us apart. But light one candle to bring us together, with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly we keep it alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far always to believing that justice would somehow prevail? This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
Good morning, everyone. Today in RE, we are continuing our search through our senses with our littlest ones. We are wrapping up our Harry Potter social justice curriculum with our early elementary grades, and in middle school, we are celebrating the winter solstice. So those of you who are on our aisles, will you please rise as you are willing or able and build an arch for our children as we sing them to their classes.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you, Bo. What we'd like to do now is acknowledge and welcome those of you who are visiting with us this morning. If you're online with us, you're invited to say hello in the comments section and tell us your name and where you're from. The chat section can be found below or on the right side of the video when it's out of full screen. If you're attending in person, please rise as able or raise your hand so we may welcome you. Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here with us today. We'll now receive the offering, which today goes to support our programming, staff, and building here at QUUF. If you'd like to donate to this worthy cause, you have a few options. The ushers will now come among you and receive the offering for those of you in person. For those viewing online, text the amount you'd like to give to the number now showing at the bottom of the screen. Go to our website, QUUF.org, and click on the giving link, or simply mail a check to QUUF. Just remember to put offering in the memo line. We will now gratefully receive your offering as we listen to the Vaccinated Voices singing Hanukkah, O Hanukkah by Mark Rivesman.
Thanks for your patience. Many thanks to the Vaccinated Voices. The social justice group would like to thank everyone who has participated in the Giving Tree event this year. For over 7 years, QUUF members have been very generous in supporting this holiday giving by purchasing a therapeutic item for a child with special needs. This year, the focus was on early childhood development, servicing very young children. The program is confidential, and requests are submitted by local teachers and therapists working with local families. We're very happy to report that because of the generosity of members, we've completed the list except for a few items. There's still time, and if you're interested, you can go to the QUUF update from the Friday newsletter and look for Giving Tree information. Click on the link and it will show you the items for purchase. I want to again support this congregation for their generous support for children during this holiday season. If you have any questions, you can contact Sherry Mann, who has information for us. I would now like to welcome Hillary Rosen up to make an announcement on behalf of the Healthy Community team.
Technology saves me. Hi, my name's Hillary Rosen, and I'm with the Healthy Community team. And we're hosting a conversation circle over in the den after the service. And we generally will do one question that pertains to the service, and then one question that came from the cottage meetings that we had. So just questions that pertain, that we care about, the things we want to do. This is an opportunity for us to connect face to face and to discuss topics that are important to us that have come up in the past. And please join us if you want. What we're going to do is we'll go out and we'll get coffee and be with our friends for a bit, and I'll come through and ring a little bell. And if you're interested in joining us, just follow me over to the den. Have a great day.
And I'd also like to announce a board announcement.
I am Larry Morrell. I'm currently serving as president of the Board of Trustees for QUUF. For the benefit of the folks who may not be aware, this church year ends next June, and that will mark the end of the tenure of our current minister, Reverend Kate Kenny. We all love Kate. However, she has retired twice before, so we're allowing her to retire again. 3 times before. Sorry, Kate. So we need another minister come next church year. And while we all have hope, hope is best served when you have a plan. So this is our plan. And so we're announcing today that members of our ministerial hiring committee, this has been described earlier in Monday board reports starting in October. So if you want more information, go back to those October board reports and you can see what our process will look like. We're extremely proud to announce who these members are. Our bylaws require a 5-member hiring committee with at least 1 board member. The committee members are Deborah Bouchard, Dean Carr, Brian Rodgers, and Sarah Walker. David Rimpf is the trustee representative from the board. In addition, we've added 2 other participants in this process. Anne Marie Mende will be an alternate in case one of the 4 members, board members, one of the 4 committee members can't proceed. And we've also appointed Linda Spratt, who is currently chair of our personnel committee, as a consultant/advisor for personnel issues, hiring, relocating, that sort of stuff. We had more than a dozen highly qualified members apply, which was extremely gratifying to see so much interest. It made our work difficult to select the 4 church members. But we looked at what the overall team skill set and background look like, and we think we've got a very good mix of people with a broad variety of backgrounds and skills to come up with the best possible candidate. The team will now be working with the Ministerial Hiring Transition Office at the UUA. The work kicked off actually already last Thursday. And I mentioned the previous board reports in October describe more of the process. The board wants to thank everyone who applied and commits to support whatever the hiring committee needs in terms of resources or plans or expectations. We're extremely enthusiastic about this team, and we know we'll get a great outcome. Thank you.
We will now share our joys and sorrows, recognizing that our personal joys and sorrows are only a fragment of the joys and sorrows of the larger community of life. And thus, we place this first stone, thinking in particular of the safety of the Jewish community, which has in today's world suffered from prejudice and violence. Hate crimes have been on the rise. And we seek to counteract this by telling the amazing stories of Jewish history and resilience to our own children, grandchildren, and communities. We light this candle of sorrow for Marya Nieland, a dear friend of Henry Amick's who passed away this week. We're holding Henry and all of Marya's friends and family in our hearts. And now we place a final stone, holding in our hearts the joys and sorrows that I've just shared, but also thinking of such joys and sorrows among us that are unexpressed but of no less importance. I invite you now into a moment of silence. Here is our reading for today. Why do we gather? We gather to solve problems that we can't solve on our own. We gather to celebrate, to mourn, and to mark transitions. We gather to make decisions. We gather because we need one another. We gather to show strength. We gather to honor and acknowledge. We gather to build companies and schools and neighborhoods. We gather to welcome, and we gather to say goodbye. And that's from Priya Parker, from The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters. Our special music today is a combination of two numbers, Shalom Havarim, a Jewish folk song meaning peace, my friends, and Fonder Shop, or Under the Wedding Canopy, performed for us by Chris Copeland, Terry Copeland, and Nan Toby Tyrrell.
Shalom, Havarim, Shalom, Havarim, Shalom.
Thanks, Chris, Terry, and Nan Toby. Our speaker today is Melody Moberg. Melody is a Seattle-based Unitarian Universalist ministerial candidate and spiritual direction student. She's originally from central Wisconsin. She's honored to serve as a monthly guest preacher at Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship this year.
Thank you. We often think of time as linear, moving on a line forever forward. But sometimes time is a circle, and sometimes it's a spiral, moving round and round, but also forward still. For example, in Hindu cosmology, time proceeds through cycles upon cycles, including the world being destroyed and started anew. I believe we experience time as a circle or a spiral when we engage with time in terms of seasons, moon cycles, solstices and equinoxes, holidays or festivals. In my Master of Divinity program, I learned about the Christian liturgical year. For many Christians, the year can be imagined as a circle, sliced up into unequal pieces of pie. These pieces of pie are liturgical seasons like Lent or Easter. Right now, we're in the pie slice known as Advent, a time of preparation and waiting. Some slices of pie are known as ordinary time in the Christian liturgical year. Ordinary times include all the times of the year that don't belong to the so-called liturgical seasons. Hearing ordinary time described as such is really appealing to me. It's unusual for me to think of time as a circle or a spiral, and it's stranger still to imagine all the normal weeks in a year called ordinary, defined as not part of the sacred calendar. Holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries move us from linear time to circular or spiral time. Celebrating holidays can feel like a kind of time travel. Time keeps moving forward, but we're suddenly living in the past, living in memory and nostalgia, remembering our loved ones who have died, remembering childhood holiday practices. Or we're suddenly and acutely aware of our futures, imagining how we might want things to be different 1 year from now, say when New Year's Day arrives again. Winter holidays can be a time of great joy and meaning, and they can be challenging times of grieving. Winter holidays bring high expectations, and for many, procrastination, depleted energy, and stress. Today, I'm exploring themes of gift-giving and gatherings, features of holidays in the winter that can be fun and meaningful or also exhausting. In the face of expectations and potential overwhelm, we can choose our values like a mission statement, choosing ways to focus on what most aligns us with that which is most important. The worst Christmas gift that I ever gave was a gift of my old toys from the basement. I wrapped them up and gave them to my younger brother as if they were new. I presented this gift as an elementary schooler, and while part of it was altruistic, I wanted to avoid waste, and I wanted to use the resources that we already had. A bigger part of the gift was that I was a grumpy older sibling who wanted all the resources for myself. And this was not a generous gift. One of the best gifts that I received was from a cab driver in Transylvania, Romania. I was on a pilgrimage with members of my UU congregation, visiting our partner church and going to Unitarian religious sites. We completed our journey and we're driving to the airport to fly home. We chatted with the cab driver about the places we visited and our travels ahead, and as we were getting out of the cab driver handed me a small, well-worn crucifix that he had suction cupped to his windshield. This was for protection, he said, for the flight ahead. He was insistent that I take it, and I was surprised by his generosity. After a week and a half of pilgrimage, I was surprised by an unexpected spiritual gesture. The cross didn't speak to my personal religious practices, but it felt like an important object, made sacred through the man's care and intention. Sometimes gifts create a sense of magic. One of my coworkers shared with me that when the tooth fairy visits her children, they always receive coins from faraway lands. I love how this gift shifts the focus from receiving spending money to the mystery of the tooth fairy's visitation. The author Gary Chapman says that there are 5 love languages that people use to receive and give affection. These love languages are physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, and acts of service, which might look something like fixing your partner's coffee maker. It can be a problem in relationships when love languages are mismatched. Maybe your partner feels love through quality time, and you seek to show love through words of affirmation. Though you keep sending texts expressing your affection, your partner doesn't feel loved. Once you identify your own love languages and the love languages of those you care for, you can better show your affection. Gift giving is a love language, but one that is often misunderstood. Gift giving as a love language doesn't have to be materialistic. It doesn't have to look like a manipulative relative buying affection through expensive gifts. Imagine instead receiving the gift of a child's favorite rock, or, as Chapman says, their bouquet of gathered flowers and weeds from the yard. There's something innately human about developing one's gifts and then sharing them. We see this from artists of all kinds, musicians, painters, poets, following the urge to create and then sharing these gifts with the world, sometimes for compensation and sometimes freely given. I personally find it motivating to create with an audience in mind. Several years ago, I was motivated to write poetry again when I was invited to accompany a friend to a poetry slam where we might perform. I'm motivated to practice painting when I do it on watercolor postcards that I can send to friends. And I'm motivated to knit new patterns when I plan to give the items to other people. My mother is a goldsmith. Before she retired, she owned a jewelry store, and our family would often work at the jewelry store all together, often in December, which was our busiest month. This gave me a vantage point into the gift-giving rituals of our customers. I loved watching people pick out gifts for their loved ones, carefully choosing unique pieces of jewelry with personal meaning. Even more special was watching my mother or brother work with couples to design their wedding rings. These are gifts, which are financial investments, and also gifts with deep symbolic and personal meaning. Working at the jewelry store surprisingly meant seeing into people's lives, hearing about rites of passage, engagements, baptisms, high school graduations, memorials and weddings, or learning about the family history attached to an inherited piece of jewelry brought in for repair. I love asking people about their jewelry because there's usually a story and usually the story involves people who they love. And yet, gift giving is stressful. When finding gifts, it's clarifying to remember your values and to shape your giving around them. Maybe you value presence and showing that you deeply know your loved ones, and so you give a low-cost, highly sentimental gift. You might value small businesses and simplicity, so you give gift cards from a favorite bookstore. Or maybe you value togetherness, and your gift is for a future experience you can share together. Winter holidays are also associated with gathering together with family, friends, and found family. I want to acknowledge that our gatherings all got a lot more complicated because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. And this is, of course, an ongoing pandemic. I don't think any of us are taking gathering for granted like we used to. The gatherings that I speak of today don't have to mean big parties. They can be small. Gatherings can be gatherings of friends or gatherings of found family. Gatherings can be online. There are ways to make gatherings safer, even now, through vaccinating, testing, keeping gatherings small, meeting outside, or masking. And these precautions also help immunocompromised people in our communities. I will never forget how my understanding of church changed in 2020. It helped me realize that a congregation is a people and not a building. Broadening our reach with congregants now watching services in person, online, and asynchronously watching recordings of worship. Worship can show up in our homes. Worship can show up on long walks, playing from our phones. What it means to gather has changed. In the 2018 book, The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters, the author Priya Parker radically reimagines what it looks like to gather together. So many of our gatherings, like board meetings or bachelorette parties, follow a script. What could a transformational gathering look like? We might imagine 2 different baby showers. One follows cultural expectations. It's an event exclusively by women, for women. It focuses on gift giving and playing lighthearted games. The traditional baby shower assumes traditional gender roles. It assumes a cisgender woman in a heterosexual relationship will be the primary caretaker of children in a family. The second baby shower reimagines gathering. Priya Parker realized that the gathering she really wanted as an expectant parent was a meaningful gathering for her, her husband, and their loved ones. She wanted a gathering to mark their rite of passage into parenthood. Parker wanted a gathering where loved ones from many generations could share their support and advice for the journey ahead. This second baby shower had the potential to be transformational because it centers a real need. Priya Parker writes that gatherings should have a purpose which is, quote, specific, unique, and disputable. You need to determine why you're really gathering, which involves defining your needs, creating a purpose to address that need, and thinking about why it's important. Every gathering has a unique circumstance. Priya Parker calls the Passover principle the act of asking for every gathering, how is this night different from all other nights, as one does at a Jewish Passover Seder? How is it different to celebrate the winter solstice in 2022 with these specific people gathered all together. What's different about this winter solstice than all others? Parker also argues that meaningful gatherings have a host who exercises generous authority. Underhosting, on the other hand, leaves party guests to fend for themselves, unsure when or if things will happen, like toasts or speeches or bringing out the birthday cake. A host with generous authority takes care of their guests, connects people with each other, and keeps the event moving forward. Sometimes the host creates structure through playful rules, which they enforce. The host keeps the gathering on track, staying closely focused on its purpose. The host also models the authenticity and presence that they hope to see in their guests. If the host wants their guests to be vulnerable in their sharing, then the host needs to be vulnerable first. Similarly, if the event is about reflecting on the past and creating intentions for the future, like many people do at New Year's, then the host needs to genuinely engage this process first. I think what's exhilarating to me about the art of gathering is the idea that rote gatherings can be transformed into events shimmering with meaning. It's so meaningful to wonder together, how is this night different from all other nights? When days blur together, meaning grows when we acknowledge the unique elements of the holidays we celebrate in our particular part of the world and with our particular people. This question reminds me of one of the organizing principles for emergent strategy Adrienne Marie Brown uses, which comes originally from the leader Taj James. In working with groups to enact justice or create change, she writes, quote, "There is a conversation in this room that only these people at this moment can have. Find it." When I worked as a UU religious educator through the early pandemic, we had a lot of trouble finding gatherings that high school youth would want to show up to, particularly programs that were online only, and particularly programs that were focused just on hanging out together. This is understandable. Amidst the stress of the pandemic and the changes of online school, it makes sense that church wouldn't be a UU student's top priority. In 2020 and 2021, I changed my thinking about the purpose of youth programming and what engagement looks like. Instead of thinking of engagement as just the numbers of children and teens who sign up for our programs, or the numbers of children and teens who show up in online classes, instead I started thinking of engagement as any way that a teenager engages with their congregation. How can a congregation support its teens? Engagement could be a teen watching the worship service. Engagement could be a teen receiving a note from an elder in the congregation, genuinely asking how they are. Engagement could be talking about social justice or UU identity around the dinner table with family. Engagement could look like a teen knowing their UU congregation has their back now and whenever they want to return in the future. In the midst of so many programs that I tried not working, I noticed a pattern. The gatherings that teens actually showed up for were all deeply meaningful. The meaningfulness and deep bond of our 2019-2020 coming of age class enabled the program to continue with high participation when moved online. The class even wanted to meet for an online reunion the following December. Teens showed up when they were hired to teach family ministry programs for younger ages. Teaching is meaningful. It gives real work experience, and teaching is its own kind of faith formation. Teens showed up when asked to participate in worship. They participated in our winter holiday services for families and our monthly intergenerational services. In 2020 and 2021, I adapted the annual youth service so that there were a lot of different ways to participate. Teens could send in a picture of themselves with a pandemic project, and some opportunities were more complex. Several teenagers made beautiful and intricate videos exploring and reflecting on their experiences. One participant wrote a deeply meaningful letter to herself, which was read aloud. Finally, teens showed up when they were invited to co-facilitate a Black Lives Matter vigil outside the church building. I think that this gathering engaged teenagers because it was purposeful and timely. It focused on naming injustice and the essential work of proclaiming that Black lives matter. People often imagine that youth programming has to be cool, that teenagers are only looking for friends or places to hang out with other people. But I believe that teens are drawn to meaning and gatherings with purpose just as much as adults are. I hope that we can treat ourselves gently this holiday season, to practice kindness as we move from linear, ordinary time to the special cyclical and spiral times of the winter holidays, where memory and dreams for the future overlay the present. Amidst the feelings and the commercialism, amidst the holiday chaos, I hope that we can take a deep breath. I hope that we can unplug from the busyness and the expectations that wipe us out. Instead, may we take time and space to focus on the core values we most want to center in our giving, in our gatherings, and always. Blessed be. Our closing song is hymn number 360, Here We Have Gathered. Please stand as you're willing and able.
Here we have gathered side by side. Circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. this pain. Kindness can heal us, sharing what we can. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Please join us in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish our flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Next Sunday, there will be no service Christmas morning, but there will, however, be 2 Christmas Eve services. The children's pageant is at 5 p.m., and then at 7 o'clock, Kate Kinney will speak on the topic, Bearers of the Divine. We hope you can join us. Our postlude today is Erev Shel Shoshanim, a Hebrew love song that translates Evening of the Roses. It's performed by Kristen and Otto Smith with imagery by Ida.